the new season, up against Jackson Page, one of the most exciting young talents to have emerged in the last few years. It should be a cracker. Jack Lazowski against Elliot Slesser is a little later on table one. We've also got Judd Trump in action this evening, and Mark Allen, the player of the season during the last campaign. So that is quite a menu of snooker for this third day of the first Home Nations event of the brand new season, the English Open. We've already had a session today, and Mark Williams, the new British Open champion, came from 3-1 down to beat Zhao Guodong. Afterwards, he spoke to Alan McManus. It's the best of 7 frames, of course. Ben Williams is our referee.
All the best.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, a former English Open champion. The only Home Nations event he's actually won, although he has been in multiple finals in the other Home Nations series events, all of which are coming up here on Eurosport. We're ready to go for frame 1. It's Jackson Page against Ronnie O'Sullivan, the first 4 frames to play the Sijai Wee or Fergal O'Brien in round 3. And it's good afternoon to Neil Foles.
Yes, good afternoon, Philip. Always interesting to watch O'Sullivan. He played okay the other night, but it'll be quite interesting to see how he gets on against Jackson Page, who, of course, is a very promising player. I do think that this match is probably going to be suited to the style of O'Sullivan. If it's a very open and quick game, then very few people beat Ronnie in that way. But he's playing a good player in Jackson. He's won a match at the Crucible before, beating Barry Hawkins there. Not the most recent championship, the one before.
They've only played once before. That was the UK Championship, and it was a long time ago now, 2017, when Page was still only 16. routine victory in the first round for O'Sullivan against Andrew Paget, but he was struggling a little with the tennis elbow that's been plaguing him on and off for the last 18 months now. He's had a couple of cortisone injections and he's been taking painkillers. Apparently the problem is at its worst when he's attempting power shots. He was wincing a bit in that victory over Paget, so we'll keep an eye on that. But apparently he's now okay now that the painkillers have done their job, so hopefully that won't be an issue. Won this title in 2017, and even by O'Sullivan standards, his performance in the final was remarkable. Beat Kyron Wilson 9-2. He made 4 centuries. He averaged 82 points per frame in that final. His average shot time was under 17 seconds for the match. And he missed just 6 balls when the frames were live in the entire final. So that was some display. But last season, he didn't get past the quarterfinals of any ranking event. And of course, this is his first appearance in a ranking tournament this season. This is the 4th of the new campaign. And O'Sullivan has withdrawn from the other 3, although he did win the Invitational Shanghai Masters, of course. But he's always played in the home nations, and in beating Paget in round 1, he maintained his record of having always won his first round match in every home nations event, which is pretty remarkable, really.
Yes, I mean, Jackson Page won his qualifier quite a while ago. He not won a match here in Brentwood this week, and we're into the Wednesday, so it's quite a long time to enter the fray without any matches. And of course O'Sullivan did win that match on day 1, as Philip pointed out. It's Andrew Paget comfortably. Strange week, isn't it? Because we've seen a lot of players go out, the likes of Robertson, Kyron Wilson, Sean Murphy, Mark Selby, others, Barry Hawkins, but you're not putting Ronnie necessarily on your shortlist, I don't think. Not many are. Not because we don't think he's a great player, because we know he is. It's just that, you know, invariably his home nations, he wins a few matches and then bows out about the quarterfinals. That's been the trend over the years, but of course he can win it. She in Brentwood, he'd probably get a lot of pleasure out of that.
It's about a 50-minute drive from his house. So a relatively straightforward commute for O'Sullivan, who turns 48 in December.
11.
Chasing his 40th ranking title this week. Hasn't won one since he won his record equaling 7th World Championship last year. One of a number of the big guns
17.
who didn't quite fire as they normally would in the ranking tournaments last season. Neil Robertson,
18.
Higgins being a couple of other notables.
I think he's been getting inspiration from what Mark Williams has been doing, winning last
24.
week in Cheltenham, beating Mark Selby in that
25.
final Sunday night. Obviously, the fact that Ronnie won in Shanghai, that those players are still right at the top of the tree, aren't they? John Higgins probably win this week now, knowing the way he's going, although he's playing that
32.
brilliantly, what I've seen. He's still in.
33.
So they're all still forced to be reckoned with. That's probably an understatement.
Yes, and it's not as though O'Sullivan hasn't still been winning trophies. Last season he won the Hong Kong Masters, the big invitational, in front of record-breaking crowds. Beat Marco Fu in the final. He won the Champion of Champions, beating Trump. And he's won Shanghai for a 5th time
41.
and a 4th in a row with his victory over Brussels a couple of weeks ago. So when he's in the mood, he's still the man to beat.
48.
Yeah, such a beautiful, natural player of opening the bunch. He knew that this red was in play anyhow, and he would finish on something. He wasn't relying on anything in the bunch to get into play because he knew he had a red. I don't think this is going to be a long match, even if it went all the way to 7th frame.
49.
Get the feeling that these two will rattle through the frames the way they play.
Jackson Page missed a tricky red to the left centre.
57.
Looking increasingly likely to cost him. Sullivan into the groove quickly. It was quite a scratchy match against Paget. He was never under any threat. There were quite a few errors, but it's about winning these early rounds in the home nations, building up your form
64.
as you go.
Well, the early indications are, A, that he's playing all right, and B, he looks to be, you know, up for the task. He looks fairly focused in what he's doing.
65.
Sometimes that's half the battle with O'Sullivan. You can tell within a first half a frame whether he's going to play any good or not. Just if he's got this sort of zoned-in approach. And so far, so good.
We'll hear from him a bit later, speaking to Alan on Discovery Plus, and he does mention the fact that he didn't
71.
take any painkillers ahead of his match against Paget, so that was part of the problem, but they seem to have done the job. And this has been a very smooth visit to the table.
76. $77.
Yeah, bank of spectators here to watch the great man play in his home county of Essex. Big snooker fraternity in this part of the world. Some good players.
82.
Holding on, great players have come out of Essex, this man being the best of them all.
83.
So this is a lovely start. That's a beautiful little cannon as well. Stun run through off the red. So far, so good.
$90. 91.
Pretty ominous message this, isn't
98.
it, to Jackson Page early in the piece. You miss, I'll hit.
99.
He's made this look very easy, playing at his usual electric pace, although he never looks as though he's rushing. And there's century number 1211, the crowd loving it.
105.
What a start to the afternoon.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 105 in the frame.
And as mentioned, we're going to get some insight from Ronnie O'Sullivan, who was speaking to Alan McManus ahead of this match today. Ronnie O'Sullivan pain-free and in the mood already with a century in the opening frame against Jackson Page. We'll just check in on developments in the other tables, which remember you can watch live on Discovery Plus throughout the day. And here is Zhou Yulong up against Andrew Higginson, both players ranking finalists. Early stages of that one. Joe O'Connor is playing Lu Hong Yu. O'Connor, who made the Scottish Open final last season, played exceptionally well to get there, was well beaten in the final by Gary Wilson. That's a tight opening frame, as you can see, still in the balance. Lu at the table. And the other match today featuring Jensen Kendrick against Lucas Kleckers. And that too is still up for grabs, the opening frame. Tomorrow. And C and Fergal are in action later this afternoon in our second batch of matches. Our table one match next up will be Jack Lazowski against Elliot Slesser, who of course has beaten O'Sullivan a couple of times.
Well, he got the cue ball back round, but he needs the red to go tight on the cushion now. Well, not tight. It is a thin one. I mean, O'Sullivan might fancy this red, but it's a very thin contact required to knock it in.
First showed his talent when he played as a wild card at the Welsh Open when he was just 15, Page, and did win a couple of matches there. And O'Sullivan back in early in frame two.
Well, he'd made an effort to play on the red just above the black, but he got hold of it too much, surprisingly. To finish down there, he'll probably still play the red, but it's more awkward to pot and get position for where he's finished.
7.
I think he'll be able to get to the pink here with sendable striking. A really good rest shot from O'Sullivan. You don't think of it with O'Sullivan, his ability with the rest, because he so often uses his left hand on shots. So the rest is used more seldom.
13.
Well, once again, overcooked that. Got hold of it too much, that cue ball.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 14.
I had him in mind he would still try and cut the black in, but a very sensible shot. He looks on it today. I mean, as I say, there's not a license to win just because the player's on it. But in the case of O'Sullivan, it kind of is it's a factor that you need to put into the mix, and he looks to be up for the game. he played it with right-hand side, and it just pushed away to the left when he hit it. Never came back, so that was the side which is the reason he misjudged that shot quite badly for him. Just maybe a little bit fortunate on the last visit, Jackson, when he went for a ball and got lucky. The red that's close to the left corner is the thing that's giving both players a few problems. I don't want to play any shot which leaves that red on.
One.
That is a terrific shot. I'm sure he played it with a little bit of side, almost a swerve. Yeah, let's have a look at this again. Well, what a shot this was. I mean, to judge that as he did is takes some doing. Only just skimmed past the blue ball on the way through to it.
He turned pro
7.
in 2019. He's still only 22 years of age, Jackson Page. He's currently ranked at 51, his highest 46 earlier this year.
8.
His best in ranking events, 6 last 16 appearances, including the one Neil mentioned at the World Championship, when he played quite brilliantly, actually, against Barry Hawkins. He finished that match with 2 big centuries and then got schooled by the man who has nurtured the early stages of his career, Mark Williams, who describes him as an extra son, but he showed him no mercy that day. Made 5 centuries, 6 in fact, I think, and crushed him 13-3, but
15.
we've certainly seen flashes of his potential as a professional.
16.
I think the match I recall was when he played in last year's Northern Ireland Open in Belfast, and he had played brilliantly against John Higgins, but somehow Higgins got over the line and beat him. Higgins had to pull up all his resources and made a couple of big clearances, but I think he proved what he could do. He's just a little bit inconsistent, but he can really play.
$21. $22.
No, playing into the bunch here. I think he played it well. He's all right, I think. Red to the right corner.
28.
To the right one of the two close together.
$29.
What a chance he's created for himself here.
34. $35.
I didn't mention that ranking of 51, which has been as high as 46. You just feel that, you know, there's a top 32 player, probably a top 16 player in there somewhere on ability. Doesn't mean he'll ever get there, or
40.
it's hard to predict how far anyone's career could go. But he's an extremely dangerous player. He's got
41.
few rough edges to his game, but when he's in, he looks really good like this.
.47. .48. 54. 55.
'Ll be 47 in front, having potted this pink, and then it's a question of just potting
60.
a red. I mean, red colour red absolutely guarantees
62.
O'Sullivan won't get out of his chair.
And what a good response to the early blitz from O'Sullivan. That could have been a little intimidating, but Page backs his own ability, and what a brilliant initial red, because it wasn't an easy swerve, was it, to control the cue ball to pot the red.
I think the expression untapped potential is apt for this Jackson Page. And he is still a young player, of that we know. Been around all those years, but there's still a lot to work on. And he's in amongst good players, good people around him.
76.
There's no reason he couldn't go a lot further in this game, because he's pretty good to watch. Not dissimilar to the old Cliff Wilson, the former Welsh player, going back a long time. Just the way he pots balls and seems to play with a bit
82.
of carefree abandon. You know, it's nice to see a player doing that.
84.
Became the 20th Welshman to play at the Crucible when he qualified last year.
87. 91.
This has been special. Ronnie O'Sullivan complimented him ahead of this match, speaking to Alan McManus, saying that he reminded him of Luca Brissell with the way he cues, the way he goes for his shots.
Well, the Luca Brissell comparisons now are even better, aren't they? Now that he's world champion, they mean more.
102.
Yes, and that was a victory at the Crucible which rather came out of left field, given that Brissell had never won a match there previously, so who knows. In the meantime, that was a fantastic break from Jackson Page. What a start to this match. They've exchanged century breaks. Fantastic entertainment for this Brentwood crowd. It's one frame all. Well, we've heard from Ronnie O'Sullivan ahead of this match. We also caught up with Jackson Page before things got underway, speaking to Alan. It certainly is, and it has been already. 2 centuries, one from O'Sullivan, one from Page. Here's Mark Allen limbering up ahead of his match this evening. That's our second match tonight on table 1. He's playing Matt Selt, former ranking event winner. Of course, Allen was the standout player of last season and made only his second ever World Championship semi-final when he lost a marathon to Mark Selby. This match is absolutely living up to its billing.
Thank you.
Century from O'Sullivan in the opening frame, and Jackson Page hitting back in kind in the second. Just 22.5 minutes of playing time so far, and already 1 frame apiece.
Super shot from O'Sullivan. Very controlled long pot. Cue ball just quite measured, bringing it down towards the bold colours and not going into bold. He fancied getting the pot, you see, I think, which he did.
Five. $21. $22. $29. $30.
Again, the angle he has, he could just screw into the side of the bunch, but he has reds in play anyhow. He may play on one. Played a very delicate shot. And it's okay.
37.
It's more than okay. A choice of reds to the left corner. So that was a controlled split, knowing that there were other options had the split not quite gone to plan.
38. $45. $46.
It's hard to believe that he wouldn't go on and win the frame again here. And obviously anything can be missed, but he's looking good. Frame's only 3.5 minutes old, and he's quite a way
51.
into winning it.
$52.
He's not missed a ball yet of consequence anyway. Missed one at the end of first frame after he'd made the century. That's it.
$57.
Sullivan playing into an area where he had more than one red he could have landed on, which is the art of break building. You can never absolutely be sure of putting the ball on a certain area.
58.
Going to sound a sixpence, but I'm not sure everyone would know that expression, the younger watchers, but it means very precise position anyway.
65. $66.
Anything now he needs. There's another frame gone. Goodness, we've 4 minutes 45 seconds we've got on the clock, and it's over this frame. These two are absolutely racing
71.
around, aren't they?
72.
Making an incredibly difficult game look stupidly easy. But what entertainment.
$79.
Well, that'll do. That'll do. Just nudged it.
80.
I mean, there's never been a snooker player like O'Sullivan break building. I mean, if there is to be one, because you can never really say never, I'd like to see that person play.
87.
But it's just the way that he can pass breaks,
88.
the ease in which he goes about it. And this has been a fairly straightforward break by his standards, because his cue ball's been on the next ball perfectly. But there are other times when he has to sort of bring up shots into
95.
play that are a little bit unconventional early in a
6.
break very often. But you know, seeing him as full cry like this, terrific stuff. And it's like the centuries are going to keep coming.
On his first ranking event of a record-breaking 39 when he was still only 17, the UK Championship in 1993, and 30 years on, no discernible reduction
103.
in ability. His longevity is extraordinary.
$109. Ronnie O'Sullivan, 109. On the frame.
3 frames, 3 centuries, and not even half an hour's play. Ronnie O'Sullivan's now made 2, and is back in front of Jackson Page in this cracking encounter by 2 frames to 1.
Quietly as you can, please.
Let's have a look back at the first couple of frames, and well, it's been a highlights reel so far. This was an early mistake from Jackson Page, very tough red.
Quieten down, please, thank you.
Cute angle, not easy by any means, but it proved to be very expensive. O'Sullivan straight into the groove. As mentioned, he had some issues with his tennis elbow in his first round victory over Andrew Paget. Even though he won 4-0, he wasn't looking comfortable today. There's been no suggestion of any problem. He mentioned to Alan McManus he's been taking the painkillers. They've done the trick, and it was just such a smooth break. It's the way he maneuvers the cue ball around, so instinctive and so quick thinking. And there was the first century, but credit to Jackson Page, what a response from him. O'Sullivan thinking that he was leaving the cue ball in a safe spot here and covering that red over the left corner, but Page then executed a really difficult swerve shot here in order to not only navigate the blue but find the potting angle. You get a bird's eye view of it there. That was so well done and not easy. And it was a case of anything you can do. Page flying around the table, showing how much natural ability he's got. And it was a century from him, but of course Ronnie O'Sullivan has just repeated the trick himself. 105 O'Sullivan frame 1, 109 Page frame 2, 109 O'Sullivan frame 3. High octane stuff here on table 1 to start day 3. Somewhat more pedestrian, understandably, on table 2, where Zhou Yulong is up against Andrew Higginson. As you can see, Higginson took the opening frame, but Zhou fighting back in the second. He was on the wrong end of a 2-session final whitewash to Neil Robertson a couple of seasons back, but he is a very capable all-round player. Every chance that he'll be a ranking event winner in the years ahead. Coverage continues of all the 4 tables on Discovery Plus.
Thank you, the fourth frame. Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Well under half an hour's playing time so far, and already 3 of the possible 7 frames have come and gone to 3 century breaks, 2 of them from Ronnie O'Sullivan in this their second meeting. Sullivan breaking off in frame 4.
Yeah, under 7 minutes that last frame, and of course it's not a race clearly, but I think when players are fluent and they get into a rhythm, it's just better they play at that rhythm. And of course O'Sullivan's always been up at the top end when it comes to speed and average shot times, which seem to have completely disappeared off the large scoring these days. When they were there, before things all went wrong, O'Sullivan was the kingpin, despite his advancing years.
Well,
This is O'Sullivan's first ranking event appearance of the season, but he's certainly making up for lost time today. That's 66 out of 67 now for O'Sullivan, and the one he missed was irrelevant.
Yeah, there's a school of thought recently. I've been speaking to a couple of people about what you might do to some stats, because people like the stats. You know, pot success in live play is one that I think might be brought in, because it's one thing missing an exhibition shot at the end of the frame, but it's not reflective of your overall potency in the game when you're playing brilliantly. Missing a ball early in a frame, different ball game.
6.
At the moment, he's missing very much, or if anything. It's a good opening red once again here. I mean, it's too early to say anything about how he's going to fare this week. But he comes here on the back of Shanghai, of course, winning that. He looked all at sea on Monday, but won 4-0. But today, he's got out of the bed the right side, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's
13.
terrific. This time the cue ball runs further than he would have expected. So now what does he do? Does he keep the pressure on?
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 13.
Yeah, well, there's your answer. He's keeping the pressure on. He realises that Jackson Page is going to be a threat to him at some point, if not today, then in the years to come. So trying to show him what he's going to be up against. Yeah, it was a good while ago, wasn't it, in that UK Championship when O'Sullivan beat him. I think Jackson is a different prospect then. O'Sullivan is exactly the same as he was then.
It was a largely disappointing season for Page last time out. Just the one last 16 appearance, that was at the WST Classic in Leicester. He did avenge that heavy loss to Williams by beating the now British Open champion 4-3. But nothing else of any great note. He lost in the final qualifying round of the World Championship to Vafai, 10-6. Hadn't won a match at the English Open in his 4 previous appearances, or his victory over Doherty in qualifying. But he has qualified for the upcoming Wuhan Open, which of course starts here on Eurosport on Monday, the first ranking event in China since COVID, and November's International Championships. Another cracking long pot from O'Sullivan.
Well, if the long pots are going to go in, then he is going to be, well, irresistible force, because there was something you would say that he does well, but not necessarily the best of anybody. It's the long game. You can think of players who might be more consistent, but today they've all gone in, I think. Certainly the ones I've seen.
8.
3 from 3. And they've all been good ones at range. And that's O'Sullivan firing on all cylinders.
He's still not missed a ball of consequence either. Ran out of position just now, played safe.
14. 15.
Snookered himself at the back end of his second century in frame 3. The only ball that has gone astray was the first frame as he switches to left-handed. After the century was completed, it's been immaculate from O'Sullivan so far.
I think with this game, you could be playing O'Sullivan thinking, well, how can I possibly beat this player playing like this? And the answer is that hardly anyone could. But
28.
You know, it's not an easy game, and nobody's going to play to this level all the time.
29.
Even the greats. Because in every facet of his game, he's operational today, seems to me. Probably, if he was to win, he'd probably speak to Alan and say none of it was any good, but I don't think that'd be quite how I saw it. Even that shot, exactly where he wanted
35.
the cue ball to, the millimetre. Pop that red.
.36.
Once around the angles, it's not worked out. So does he again try and continue the break, or again does he say enough's enough? Now his attentions are on somebody daring to move in the arena.
Rather withering glance there from O'Sullivan, but he's going for this blue by the looks of it. Never in doubt, right in the middle.
What a great shot that was, Philip. He really got the bite on the keyboard, send it back. The natural angle was screwing her towards the right middle.
42.
So this frame, the balls have not run quite so kindly, but he still isn't missing any of them. Occasionally just drifting out of position somewhat, that's all. This is a tough one. This could be missed.
Oh, goodness me. Well, again, positionally not great. He's having to work very hard in this break, but he's still not missed one.
No, he had to force that, and the accuracy can sometimes go out of the window. So the frame mathematically isn't won.
48.
There's 67 on. Whether Jackson Page is feeling chipper about the chance of clearing, well, at the end of that onslaught, I'm not sure.
That's the equation, 67 remaining. 61 the deficit.
He's played that well. That's a good safety shot. That's covered up all the reds to the left side. It might be that he can just get through to one. Get through this one, it's tough still. Even that's gone in. This is, as well as I've seen him pot a long distance for quite a long time.
Some disbelieving head shaking in the crowd at the quality of O'Sullivan's snooker so far.
He gave someone a look, didn't he, for coming either in or out. But of course, if you are arriving late, you're going to do well to catch this match, because it's 3-1 and we haven't been going any time. This is another frame, only 9 minutes old. So they're absolutely flying through the frames. He's missed one. It wasn't in live play. And he's all over Jackson Page.
Yes, in terms of balls that matter, O'Sullivan remains at 100% so far, and that's not really beatable, is it? As he moves to within a frame of victory at 3 frames to 1. Let's have a look at the highlights. Where to begin where that's concerned, Neil? There have been so many of them.
He's played so well. I mean, as I say, these long pots have been flying in from all directions. And, of course, with O'Sullivan, you know, he can play safe, he can break build. And if the long game is working as well, then the ways he can score are just overwhelmingly high. And a couple of pretty discreet nudges into the bunch at times when he thought the percentages were in his favour. And we started this match terrific with 3 centuries, one from Jackson Page, but that one was a break of 109. And then he knocks this in at the start of this last frame. And that's a very smooth, long red, didn't hit the jaw or anything like that. And this one went in as well. So these are all long pots that are out of the top drawer, quite honestly. This one was not, wouldn't go down as a long pot, but it was still beautifully played. So, and in that frame, of course, a lot of these shots, because he has for once gone out of position. So no century, but a completely commanding position. And this was the one that won in the frame. So quite unusual O'Sullivan frame, but ultimately everything went in that should go in. And he needs one more frame, so a very encouraging start if you're a fan of O'Sullivan. And of course, there's an awful lot of those in the crowd.
Let's have a quick look back at table 2, where it's honours even and very early in stage 3. Andrew Higginson, who made the Welsh Open final back in the day, losing to Neil Robertson from 2 up with 3 to play. Very capable player. He's disappointed to miss that, clearly. Joe O'Connor up against Lu Hongyu, who knocked out Sean Murphy on the final pink, I believe. Terrific tussle in the previous round. He's on the stretch here over that cluster of reds.
So many Chinese players coming through. Jia Qing is another one who was seeing. Also, he had a good win again yesterday against Ryan Day. So a lot of them coming through. Very interesting it's getting.
The Steve Davis Trophy is what it's all about. Come Sunday evening, Ronnie O'Sullivan has won it before, of course, his only Home Nations title.
Jackson
Been
Page
runner-up in 5 other Home Nations events, including 3 consecutive Northern Ireland Opens to Judd Trump, who's in action on table 1 this evening from 7 o'clock against Jimmy Robertson. And Jackson Page has done very little wrong. In fact, he made a superb century of his own in frame 2, but he finds himself 2 down with 3 to play. Longest frame of this match so far, just over 12 minutes.
Well, you've always got a chance in the best of 7, and you know he can play good snooker, so he's not totally done with here. Might need this man to just standard to drop slightly, and there's a long pot missed, although he got close to it, and he got lucky as well. So he's on the brink of getting through, but he's not there yet. Jackson Page might be tempted to go for this long red because he is dangerous at long range himself. Not a very good shot, was it? Let's be honest. He's playing it with left-hand side slowly because he couldn't see the middle of the ball. And that side just pushed straight onto the red. Left it available, so that was sloppy. Can't work out why Ronnie's not playing that red. That's a mystery to me. That red was on. Did he not even see it? Red to the right corner looked pretty straightforward to me. Maybe he thought that there was no way of getting on a colour, but it didn't seem quite like that. his angle on any of the reds, but he can certainly get access to some.
Foul. Ronnie O'Sullivan, full.
Yeah, well, any shot from in the jaws of the pocket, it's always going to be a tough one. Does the black go? That's the interesting point. We can see even from the top angle here. Can we see whether that black goes? If it is, O'Sullivan might pot this one and play on it. Wonder how much room there is through to that black. Yeah, I think that will go. He would want to be right behind it.
One.
He wouldn't play on it and take the risk. Either way, he was going to be on something once the red drops.
Four. Five.
Well, again, you wouldn't be sure that Jackson Page will ever come back to the table in this match, because this is a typical O'Sullivan
13.
break here, potentially. Just a little nudge or two around the black spot, get the reds away from the black. And it could be that Jackson Page is bowing out here. Nothing is assured, but with these little cannons he's playing,
20.
if it does happen, it might happen very soon.
21. $28. $29.
I look at the spread of those reds in the middle of the table. I mean, really, it's almost like a little practice session pre-match for O'Sullivan, this.
36. 37.
Philip mentioned that English Open he won,
44.
where he played superbly in the final against Karen Wilson, which was up in Barnsley going back.
45.
That's the best I've ever seen him play in home nations or in most other places. But today, in these short forms, I don't think I've seen him play better in one of these best-of-7 early rounds than this. He's been formidable in all departments, and when there has been a pot, he's played a pretty significant safety shot.
He only missed 6 balls in live play in 11 frames in that final. Made 4 centuries.
52.
He's only missed a couple
53.
today. He looks razor sharp. You wouldn't think this is a player who opted not to play in the first 3 ranking events of the season. Of course, he did win in Shanghai.
60.
Yeah, Shanghai, that's his sort of stamping ground these days, isn't it, those events. This
61.
very much is not to his liking as much, despite being in Essex, the hurly-burly of all these tables. But nothing has stopped him today.
Match ball.
68.
This match has been going less than 47 minutes, and it's already over as a contest. Jackson Page produced a brilliant century of his own, 1 or 2 errors, but he's not done a huge amount wrong. O'Sullivan has just blitzed him.
Well, he's been superb, and Jackson will hopefully learn from this. What he will learn is that, if he didn't already know it, Ronnie O'Sullivan is the greatest to ever pick up a snooker cue. That is what most people already know, and he just demonstrated it to the crowd. And I think it's nice because there's a big crowd here in Essex today, in Brentwood. They've all come to see this man, and he's on his best behaviour out there, and he's put on a show for them. And it's nice to see.
And now chasing century number 3 for the cherry on the cake.
92.
He's got it. Just the black required. What a display.
Oh, fantastic.
100.
Absolutely marvellous stuff.
Crowd are loving it.
101.
Jackson Page won't be, but what can you do when O'Sullivan is at the top of his game? Sit, watch and admire.
We've had 5 frames, we've seen 4 centuries, and it is worth saying that Jackson Page, in the frame he won, got in and made a beautiful century.
110.
He made it quickly enough as well, but well, the trouble with snooker is you can only sit there, suffer, or in this case perhaps admire what he's watching. Same way the crowd would, but it's not very nice when it's against you.
117.
Well, it's not everyone would have thought O'Sullivan could win this week, but the way he's playing here, of course he can.
Fergal O'Brien or Sijai Wee in the firing line next in round 3.
Ronnie O'Sullivan, 122. Playing the match.
It's been a scintillating performance from the 7-times world champion Ronnie O'Sullivan. 3 centuries and victory in well under 50 minutes against Jackson Page, who made 100 of his own, but O'Sullivan was unstoppable. He wins by 4 frames to 1. He's into round 3 in Brentwood.